I'm sure many of you by now have heard of the SVB bank run that happened in the past few days. And if you haven't, I'll give you a quick refresher. Basically, the Silicon Valley Bank, which is a bank a lot of up and coming startups use, just went out of business. It completely collapsed in an unlikely turn of events. Look at this, by the way. These guys are not wasting a minute. I looked up SVB bank run on Google, and the first thing is some other bank running an ad for these keywords. These guys are ruthless. But basically, long story short, this bank just collapsed. Everybody started to get their money out at once. They faced a liquidity crisis. And now we're basically just waiting to see what's going to happen in the next upcoming week with the FDIC, which insures up to $250K per account, something like that. But there's obviously some startups that have millions and millions of dollars stored away at this bank, which is just crazy to think about. And one of those companies is unfortunately our very own Shopify. Now, this was a very critical moment, right? When I first heard that Shopify has banked on SVB, I was pretty concerned, as you may be right now. The good news is, however, that even though there is a bit of an impact on Shopify, it's not as bad as you think. So I pulled up a conversation on Twitter that I found by Toby Lucky and some random guy here that runs Sheets and Giggles. It's a pretty cool e-com brand, this one right here. And he asked Shopify's CEO, Toby Lucky, may have spoken too soon. Shopify banks with SVB, and a huge amount of e-commerce websites use Shopify. I know many store owners who would appreciate some kind of statement from Shopify today, even if it's bad news. Toby Lucky then went on to respond, very minor impact for us. We use SVB as one of 12 or so banks spread over mostly Canada and US. Canada has stricter banking risk regulations. A small portion of our US operational fund flows is tied up in SVB, but we're working around it and it should be business as usual. So that's very great to hear. Obviously, they are still affected, and I'm guessing he is, kind of downplaying the effect that this will have on Shopify to some degree. As we look at the Shopify stock over the last few days, we can see that it's been on a consistent come down, unfortunately. But that is not unlike the rest of the stock market, right? And this bank run only fuels this kind of regression in the price of a lot of stocks. So what can we do right now? Well, really nothing, honestly. I mean, now it's really just a waiting game. Everybody's at the edge of their seat waiting to see what the government decides to do with this bank, since this has been the largest bank run since, I believe, the 2008 financial crisis. So pretty interesting stuff. I mean, first it was FTX, which was a crypto bank basically, and now a crypto exchange, not an actual bank, but you get what I mean. And now it's a legitimate bank where a lot of successful and up and coming startups banked. And a lot of these startups raised a ton of money. So I can only imagine if you, let's say, raised $100 million for your startup, you put it in this bank, and now you just basically lost it all. I can only imagine how painful that must be. So my condolences to everybody affected by this. I really do hope that Shopify doesn't become affected by it and the merchants can sell as is. We're still doing our thing on Shopify. If you guys have been tuning in on the streams, this is actually what we talked about on yesterday's stream, but I decided to make a full video out of it just to kind of get you guys up and caught up on what's going on and how exactly Shopify could be affected by it. But luckily, it's not very affected. I believe Etsy is being more affected. They actually put out a public statement recently because they do bank at SVB. So Etsy sellers are definitely scrambling right now, and they've delayed payments to Etsy sellers so far, which is pretty crazy. Again, all this stuff going on, it's wild. But the great thing is that if you haven't started your business or anything yet, this is an amazing time to do it. You're actually in a great position now because these sort of black swan events really level out the playing field, right? If you think of business as a game, which it is, and it's a quite a brutal game if you think about it, then this just really levels out the playing field. It takes out a lot of the competition for you, and there's really no reason now not to start your business when all these things are going on. If you have any sort of ambitions to build a side hustle, now is the time to do it. So again, I'm backing Shopify. Hopefully nothing goes down in the opposite end of what we want, right? Hopefully things go smoothly. we're still doing pretty well in our stores. I mean, things are going quite well for our challenge store, which you should check out those videos in the description when you get a chance. Very interesting challenge going on. And yeah, tune into the streams. See you guys there. Peace.